Noble ones, welcome. This is the Metatron speaking. I hope you enjoy the footage. So every year here in Palermo we have a sports event at Concadoro Shopping Centre, a massive mall or department store full of all sorts of shops and restaurants. During this event we had an awful lot of martial arts holding exhibitions. My friend Marco Favaloro, who is a Shodan Iaido seitei, came up with this idea of having a samurai combat simulation in armor, and he did that with his Aikido Sensei, Fulvio Gagliano. This was the first time to see samurai combat in action here in Palermo. The very first thing we need to say about samurai combat in armor is that the very concept behind it very much depends on the sort of weapons that are being used. And in this case, we have got katana versus katana, rather odd choice of weapons for a battlefield situation. So we need to understand this scenario, which is still plausible, the following way. We've got two samurai who have most likely finished all their arrows for their bows, primary weapons, or the matchlock type arquebuses bows might also have finished, and for whatever reason they have lost their yari, and now they are fighting each other using katana. Clearly, when you're using a katana, killing an opponent in full armor is extremely difficult. That is one of the reasons why the katana was just a backup weapon on the battlefield. All you can try to do is trying to exploit the weak spots of your opponent's armor. Now, these weak spots will depend on the sort of configuration of the armor your opponent is wearing. As a matter of fact, not all samurai armor has the same weak spots. So let's examine the two sets of armor we have in this case. Both these sets belong to me, so I know them like the back of my hand and have worn them several times. I lent my armor to them so that this performance could be done. We're talking about a Tosei Gusoku, or modern armor, dating more or less towards the end of the Sengoku period, so 16th century, characterized by actual plates of metal which are arranged in the yokohagi style, in which the plates are riveted in horizontal rows. And an Odoshi scaled armor, a model inspired on Muromachi period armor, featuring osode, or much bigger shoulder protection, and a cuirass with simulated honkozane, small individual scales. They are both cuirasses in the Nimaido style, so featuring a single hinge under the left arm. So there is a gap in terms of time frame and different designs, as these sets of armor were actually facing disparate weapons and different battlefield conditions. So let's start from the assumption that a katana cannot cut through the plates of samurai armor, and I'll get back to the actual metal these specific sets are made of and its resistance later. What we see from this fighting scene is that, differently from what we normally have in Hollywood movies, where warriors cut through the cuirasses and slice their opponents regardless of the armor they are wearing, here, the samurai are aiming at the gaps in the armor, trying to focus their skills into one single decisive strike. For example, cutting at the gap between the shikoro of the kabuto and the top of the door, cutting in between the door and the kusazuri, which in this case is only protected by the obi and the cotton cords of the armor. These areas tend to be left unprotected for mobility reasons. They can be protected using auxiliary armor components, which I will discuss on a dedicated video. But in this case, in these configurations, they are weak spots. Another possible cut would have been at the base of the thigh, cutting the adductor longus, or the tenso fascia latae, which is one of the reasons why the originally not particularly popular haidate, or protection of the thigh, became more and more popular among samurai. In this case, both sets have complete metal haidate, so that cut would be much more difficult. It makes sense that they refrained from it. As I said earlier, much will depend on the configuration of the armor in question. But what would happen to the human body if these cuts were correctly performed? Would it be enough to disable an opponent who is otherwise well protected everywhere else? So, what would happen if one of those cuts were to be placed properly? Well, cutting is a compressive and shearing phenomenon. It occurs only when the total stress generated by the cutting implement, in this case a katana, exceeds the ultimate strength of the material of the object being cut. The cut between the helmet and the upper part of the cuirass would result in the severing of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, a paired muscle in the superficial layers of the side of the neck. The other cut is at the area of the transversus abdominis muscle, a muscle layer of the anterior and lateral abdominal wall. So the two possible targets of an hypothetical altercation between fully armored samurai are either the plates of the armor, which in this case are cold-rolled milled steel, or the soft tissue of the unprotected area, which is only covered by cotton or silk. Cold-rolled steel is essentially hot-rolled steel that has been through further processing. Once hot-rolled steel has cooled, it is then re-rolled at room temperature to achieve more exact dimensions and better surface qualities, which increases the strength via strain hardening up to 20%. This also improves the surface finish and holds tighter tolerances, smooth surfaces that are often oily to the touch. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Raff. I mean, sometimes it does make things a little complicated, but that's Dr. Raff for you. He's a little bit of a muppet, but that's how it is. So now I'd like to show you a bit more footage that I made on that day about other martial arts. There was the kickboxing group, amazing, I've got to say, and some other martial arts exhibitions, and I'd like to share that with you before closing. Alright noble ones, well I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. I'd like to say that to all of you who are in Italy, Italian subscribers or people traveling, and tomorrow I will be going to Catania for Etna Comics, so if you happen to be there, look for me. I will be dressed in full Roman armor, of course, and hopefully we'll be meeting some noble ones. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.